Amy. I appreciate that. It is more than a pleasure being here, and it is a really good crowd. So thanks for joining. I am extremely informal, so please interrupt me. I'm just going to talk for a minute before I hand it over to the real deal and why we're actually here. I'm going to talk a little bit about market updates, what happened, what's going on, and then just a little bit ahead about some systems that we need to focus on as we go into 2023. So we can all agree things have changed a little bit. And I want to talk about what created that, just so we're clear, because I also think we've got to forget about the last 2 years. Things have never happened like they did before. We had COVID, we had extreme government regulations, we had huge stimulus packages, and we had increased consumption, which decreased the value, which created a huge marker for inflation, right? So because of this, in 2 years, we had record low rates, inventory, days on market, and guess what else we had records low of? New builds, which is a problem, right? We also had record high refinances, prices, double-digit appreciation, cost of living went up, which created huge inflation. And you know what nobody did during this time with all that money that hit the market? Nobody saved anything. Nobody saved anything. We were all very excited. So here's what I do know as we go into this year. A lot of people are talking about how, oh, the market's really shifting, the market's really crashing. Well, if you compare it to last year and the year before, you're right. And I don't think you should. You should pretend the last 2 years didn't happen. You cannot compare your future goals, and don't compare your prior goals. Don't compare the housing market. Go back to 2018, 2017-ish and make a more realistic plan and plan to work twice as hard, because this likely will not happen again, period. So yes, there's going to be an adjustment or a correction. They're not willing to call it a recession yet, but maybe we'll get there. Don't tell your clients there's been appreciation year to date. Look at quarterly, look at monthly, because the shift will continue to happen fast. So here's what we do know. We all know rates have doubled, right? That's been a fun part. Going up, days on market, our inventory, and price reductions. Those are going to be your lead measures. Going down, your house showings, offers, and now some of your appraisals are going down. Here's also what we know from the county record from 1 year ago today. Refinances are down 83%. For the first time in 2.5 years, your lenders and your escrow officers' hair is not on fire. But 83% is a huge dip. I think it came out this morning that mortgage applications hit an all-time low again this morning. Purchases are down by 21%. Commercial in the I-5 corridor, specifically in the I-5 corridor, your purchases have been down 21% and commercial has been down 51%. And while new construction has been pretty much non-existent, less than 6% of the market, it's still down 19%. And here's what we know from a year ago today: 40% of our mix of business was refinances and 43% was resale. That's not really healthy. So as we look at last month's mix of business on the I-5 corridor, we're looking at resale now being 67%, refinances being at 14%. That's a bit more of a healthy, balanced market. I don't mind that shift. I don't think you should either. However, we are seeing a huge amount of agents versus inventory. Think about it this way. I think in 2012, we had 1,400 agents and about 1,300 months of inventory. Now, as everybody's saying, oh, the market slowed down, realistically, we're only at 2.5 months inventory here in the Valley. That's not a lot, but we have double the agents we had 10 years ago. For the first time in 10 years, your listings and pendings have hit each other. And what I mean by that is, for the longest time, pendings, and I'm talking the longest time, like 10, 12 years, I quit going back, pendings have doubled new listings. That's not happening anymore. They are right in the middle. They are now the new twins of real estate. So as we look at this market, as we're going into 2023, my 2 cents is this: I think new construction will continue to stay stagnant. We're not going to see any more new builds. I think it's going to continue to drop a little bit, but no more than it was before. Again, it was only 6-7% of the market to begin with. And that's because costs of labor, lumber, lending rates, and land have not gone down. And we don't see that happening. refinances for 2023, honestly, the only reasons to refinance in this market is if somebody dies or you have to get a divorce. I know it sounds terrible. Probably my funniest slide ever, but yeah, death and divorce is the only reason to refinance right now. So you're going to see those decline. I think you'll continue to see purchases decline. And why I say this is we follow major markets like Portland and on down, and I know why Corvallis as well as Eugene creates a great university hub. What we've seen is our closed from last month were half of what they were in April. So that's a huge drop, right? So I think that'll still continue to happen. Same with commercial. Now, with all of that negative talk, like I said here, there's still opportunity in every market, and that's why we're here today. So I want to talk about a few positive things that will happen in this market. Is people always need to buy and sell real estate. I call this the 4Ds: death, divorce, duplication, and destination. And you need to find a CRM or artificial intelligence to find out about all these life events. Seller rates might equal some opportunity. So if your sellers, assuming they bought in the last 5 to 7 years, you can assume their interest rate is lower than what any buyer can get now. Assuming the buyer's got a lot of money to bring to the table, which we've seen that happen, this could be a key in marketing benefit to your client. How are you going to find out that information? Yes, rates have doubled. Think of spending it in a positive manner. Higher rates will equal a higher tax benefit at the end of the year. And just like in life, I don't really like the term marry the house, date the rate, because I don't really know when rates will be back down. Buy when you can afford it, and just remember everything in life is temporary. And when we think about rates being really high at 6%, I don't know if you can see this picture, but I did keep it here. I bought my first house in 2006 for a 6.5 interest rate and an 80-20 mortgage. And people are like, that's crazy. I know, but prices are way higher now, Laura. Sure, but a lot of people got those prices at 2 to 3% interest rate, so our payments were the same. As we going in more to this market, you're going to see a little bit of lesser demand, because if rates continue to go up, we will knock out some buyers, which will create more options for the other buyers, and sellers will be more giving. And you need to find a place to put all of these leads that you're talking about, from your new leads to your nurture to your close. Where are you going to put all those? Your Facebook leads, your Zillow, your open houses, and your past clients. Where are you feeding them? I call that the conversion machine. You're going to need to do a lot more than you did in this market, because we can say the last 2 years, we didn't really go out and get our leads. We absolutely managed our leads. And so this year and next year, everything's to you to be about systems, everything. You need to find a way to create inventory by creating consistent and repeatable systems. And 6 systems that you need to focus on, and Steve and Cameron are going to hit on this so you guys continue to make them repeatable, are lead generation systems, follow-up, money systems, database systems, and farming systems. And what do I mean by that? Good thing I love talking, so I'll continue on and tell you. Where are your customers going to find you when you talk about lead generation systems? Do you have a website? Do you have a landing page? Do you have a system for following up? Do you know where to water those leads from? Or is any of it automated for consistency or best use? When I think about a listing, when was the last time as a listing agent you made an offer to a buyer's agent? When was the last time you made a call to those buyer's agents saying, what did you like about the house? What didn't you like about the house? If we fix this, could we get an offer together? Think about those opportunities in this market, and where are you going to continue to feed those leads? Think about your money systems. What are you paying for? And when was the last time you kept track about that? You need to do an audit, figure out where your revenue streams are coming from, and do more of where that's coming from, and put all that in the CRM. And remember that your database does matter. So if you haven't done anything for the last 36 months, go through and put every single one of your clients, your buyers that were failed, all of them in your CRM, and get an artificial intelligence, which Steve and Cameron can help you with, to predict your client's behavior. And remember that when you do this, the top 10% of agents touch their database 70 to 80% of the times per year, and they also have a CRM. So farming matters. This is where the Western Title team comes in. You need to think about farming wisely, thinking about turnover rates. Think about people in your office of whose database you can buy. Who's going to naturally leave from the market? It doesn't matter if their database is actually valuable. Maybe it's because they didn't water it, and you could think about that. And then before I hand it over to the guys, think about if you could sell yours. Could you repeat your CRM and use it as a retirement? I mean, as a real estate agent or an independent broker, we don't really have those retirements, right? That's where CRM and a system matters, because that's going to be your retirement, and that's why we are here today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to one of the coolest guys I've ever met in real estate, one of the smartest men I've ever met in real estate. He has had the pleasure of traveling all over the nation, meeting with the top 1% of agents. He's met with the top 1% of my agents on the I-5 corridor, whom are all signed up on CINC, and that is Steve Murnin. All yours, sir.
Hey, wow, that was awesome. I got so many notes from what you just said, Laura. That was fantastic. So
Thank you.
I'm not going to take up a whole lot of time. We're going to get right to it. We really want to value your time. Thanks for joining us today. I got one thing out of there I wrote down that was really key, and this is a tip for everybody. So this is a writer downer. Lead with revenue. Lead with revenue. So we're going to talk more about that as we go through our talk today. But what Cameron and I have prepared to do for you today is we want to talk about systems and processes. And if without systems and processes, you have chaos. And I know a lot of us are really busy, and we feel this chaos in our life and this stress and this pressure. If Cameron and I today can take a little bit of that stress out of your life and give you some tips and ideas and suggestions, and we're not selling you anything. So let's start with that. We are here simply to serve for Western, and they've got great resources available to you, many of them. We just happen to be one of them. So our goal today is to do that. So if you want to take some chaos out of your life, if you want to streamline your day, if you want to improve your business, we're going to share some quick tips with you. And please ask us any questions, make any comments, join in. And I want to thank my partner, Cameron, for being here today. So Cameron, take it away. I know you've got the lead on this, and here we go.
Yeah, awesome. And Laura, again, thanks for bringing us on here. And then everybody at Western Title for having us.
Before Cameron gets started, I just have to tell you, because I said this before, Cameron aren't you a U of O grad, Cameron?
Not a U of O grad. I'm born and raised in Silverton, and my dad's a U of O alum. So I didn't really know that I had a choice growing up.
You didn't, and you're on a good welcoming group. So I just want everybody to know you're in good company here.
Thank you. So like Steve said, there's a lot of good nuggets today that we're going to be going over. Some of this is going to be some repeat information for those of you that have been around for a while and are familiar with some of the systems that are out there. But for a lot of you, we know that statistics show that a lot of agents today still don't have the websites or the CRMs in place. And so this is hopefully, whether it's Real Geeks, whether it's CINC or even something else, our goal today is really just to kind of help, avoid that sales pitch, but really get the wheels turning as far as, okay, this is where I'm at and this is what I need to do to kind of hit my goals and take it to the next level. So, and again, we do have some slides here. Hopefully we're not going to be skipping around, but if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or just unmute. We'll be able to stay on track. So first, we're just going to go over quickly, what the CRM is and how it can help generate business. Typically, people think of a CRM as just like a Google Sheet or Microsoft Excel where I put information in there. But Steve and I are going to go over the basics on how you can actually use a CRM to really generate business, which isn't really, thought of in that way. We're going to go over the differences between the standalone versus an integrated system when it comes to the CRM and the website combination. The first steps for any CRM. So some of you either don't have a CRM or maybe you just put one into place and you're not sure how to get going. We're going to talk pretty briefly over the first, 4 or 5 things you should do to get up and running to really maximize that platform. And then the next pieces are really, Steve and I have, Steve's been doing this for quite a bit longer. I've been doing it for a couple of years, but we've had the opportunity to work with and talk to a lot of top producers, a lot of agents nationwide. And from there, we've been able to glean a lot of these best practices, tips and tricks, even the common pitfalls that some agents fall into and end up either burning out of the business or having to start over, as well as just the daily habits of what these top producers are doing. So we're going to quickly go over some of that. So again, feel free to hop in and ask questions at any point. But going back to Steve's very first comment, why agents are coming to us, meaning why are agents having conversations with CINC and with Real Geeks about putting their business in the right direction? The first one is eliminating chaos. As Steve said, real estate's chaotic, life is chaotic. So why add more chaos than you need? And that is a system for texting, another one for emailing. Maybe you've got a dialer, maybe you've got something else from Mark. I mean, it can be all over the place. So ultimately, people are coming to us to streamline and eliminate chaos. They're looking for better ways to organize their business, their system, their contacts. They're looking to have better time management because, again, agents are working pretty much when the regular folks are not working, the evenings and the weekends, because that's when they can do the open houses and the conversations. And so looking to better manage their time. But ultimately, they're looking to get more leads. They're looking to generate more leads. They're looking for more opportunities. And ultimately, they are looking for more transactions. That is why most agents are having conversations with CINC and Real Geeks, is to really get to their end goal, especially as the market tightens up the way that it is right now. Steve, did I miss anything on kind of why we're having those conversations?
Perfect. That was perfect.
Okay, awesome. That goes for you too, Steve. If you have any questions or want to add a note, just hop in. Okay, so what is a CRM? How can it help generate business? So CRM, or Client Resource Management or Customer Resource Management, there's a few acronyms that are out there. But ultimately, what the CRM is, that software system that helps you as an agent track all communication within your sphere and nurture relationships with the existing network and past clients. The key functions of the CRM, it's going to be your contact management. If you can segment and organize your database, obviously your daily reminders and task follow-ups, tracking communication as well as just the contacts. It will also be the machine or the engine behind any workflows, drip campaigns. If you could do market reports as well, that's all going to be there. And then the live feed and activity history of what leads are doing on the website. Again, that is going to be more towards the functions of CINC or Real Geeks, where you have the integrated system, which I'll touch on here in a second. But I've highlighted those, the nurturing relationships and the live feed and activity history. I've highlighted it, bolded it, underlined it, because those are the key functions that most people don't think of when they refer to a CRM. They are truly tools to not only know who's in your database, who you last talked to, and all that basic information. If you can implement a system that actually tracks their behavior across the website and what your leads are doing, you can actually use that as an agent to stay relevant to those individual leads, provide them the content that matters to them. And you know that because they have actually been telling you what matters to them based on the properties they've clicked on, the properties they've favorited, searches they've saved, market reports they've downloaded. You as an agent are aware of everything that they're doing, but that's going to be only available in a system that is truly integrated versus a standalone system. And so typically with the standalone system, we're referring to Microsoft Excel, any other type of spreadsheet. Those of you that are still using your phone address book, your contacts, that is going to be static information that you as an agent have to manually update as it comes across your desk. Whether you're making the phone calls or you're getting emails, whatever it is, you have to go make those changes. If I'm a lead and I say, hey, I was looking for 2-bedroom condos downtown, but now I'm looking for acreage on the outskirts of town. Hey, great. Now I have to go to my CRM. I'm going to log that we had that phone call. I'm going to write the notes about that phone call. Then I'm going to have to go through and either delete or edit the search that was in there or create something new through the MLS. It is a process for agents as opposed to an integrated system where the agent themselves, they maybe said, I'm looking for 2-bedroom condos. You set them up on a property search, and then you look at their activity and you see that they've actually, ventured away and are clicking on acres outside of town. So they have already told you that they're not really paying attention to the search that they mentioned. They're looking at something else. So you can go in and update parameters, or it gives you an opportunity to say, hey, this isn't matching what you told me. Did something change? What's going on? And it's all being tracked automatically. So instead of wasting the time updating everything, you as an agent already know that, and you can spend more time prospecting. Anything else there, Steve, on the integrations?
Yeah, I think big tip is this, like to get down to a tip, and we hear it all the time and see it all the time. Tip number one from me is, if you're using more than one database, just stop. People use multiple databases. I mean, they go to Excel spreadsheet, they go to Top Producer for this, they go to this for that, they go to all over the place. And it's like, no, if your system doesn't let you put, when we say a lead, we're talking about leads that may come in from websites. We're talking about your past clients. We're talking about your sphere of influence. We're talking about the farms you get from your title company. Like, everybody should be in one database, and you should be able to manage your life from one database. And that's the key. If you're not doing that, that's a must change right now. That'll change your life, right,
Yeah.
Cameron?
And now, I mean,
Yep.
and those of you on the title side that are here on the call today, how many times have you worked with an agent who makes a phone call, they log it in their CRM, then they send a text message through a service that they then have to manually log into their CRM, or maybe they're using BombBomb for a video message, and then they go back and record that they sent that in the CRM. There's so many different things that they have to do to make sure it's all, being tracked, because, heaven forbid you miss a communication and, oh, we haven't talked in 2 years. Really? We had a conversation, 2 months ago. Oh, I forgot to log it, so I didn't know that. So it happens all the time. Okay, so for those of you who are looking at getting an individual CRM for the first time, or maybe you got one recently and you're looking to kind of maximize or leverage as best as you can in a short amount of period, these are just the kind of first steps that we suggest you take. Step one, obviously, update your database. And as Steve was saying, when I mention lead, I am mentioning 99.9% of the contacts that are in your database. The only ones that are not technically a lead are those that are I guess, customer or client that are currently going through a transaction. Because once they close, guess what? Now they're a lead again in your system. So almost everybody is going to be a lead, whether it's, friends, family, social media, neighbors, professional contacts, past clients, anything like that. Upload anybody and everybody in the database. The key here is, nobody that I know of wouldn't want information on our biggest assets, whether I'm already an owner and I'm interested in its value, or I have yet to be a first-time owner, but I've thought about buying and I'm interested in what the market's doing or what properties are in a certain area. Everybody should be getting something. Step two, the communications. This is getting everything in line to make sure in your database, you know who is getting what and how they're getting it. And that's going to be, some people want emails, some people want texts, some people, just want the market reports, whatever it is. You just want to make sure everybody is getting the information that they want and how they want it, just to, again, as an agent, stay relevant to your sphere. And then, as Steve mentioned, again, integrating your phone system, your email, your calendar, and all lead generation sources. So if all you do is, rework your existing sphere, that's great. If you're buying leads from Zillow or, Bold Leads, Realtor.com, whatever it is, make sure they're funneling into your CRM. If you are doing open houses all the time and you're collecting that contact information, funnel it back into the CRM. And Laura mentioned it, you can do so many different pipelines, but if they're going to different places or different systems, you will be missing out. That funnel is really where the CRM is going to come into play. Organizing contacts, which is kind of like lead scoring, and prospecting. So when I say lead scoring, it's those who I'm going to call an agent and say, hey, I just bought a house. I'm not buying for another 10 years. I have no interest. I'm just curious about, what's going on. That's going to be a colder lead, and I'm going to put them as such, maybe get them some type of market report or drip campaign and move on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time cold calling and seeing if I can get there. And then, as opposed to somebody who's like, hey, I just found out I'm moving from, Silverton to Albany and I need a home ASAP. They're going to be at the top of my list. So make sure you're organizing your contacts as they come in. And then prospecting obviously is important in getting those contacts in there as well. And then the last piece is making yourself relevant. Again, this is a lot easier if you have a system that is truly integrated, because you know what your leads are actually interested based on their behavior. But it's just making sure that going back to who gets what and how, or what information in general is going to be relevant for those individual prospects or individual leads. I might not want a market report, so you blasting a market report to everybody is going to, come off as spammy or salesy to some of them, but maybe I want a property update and others don't. So again, just making yourself relevant.
So Cameron, you're probably the best setup person I've ever worked with. So we're going to set up a tip here. Who came to the meeting today and said, I hope what I learned today gets me an additional transaction or two? If that's you, type yes in the chat.
I hope
Let us
so.
know. We'll share a tip with you here. Here's the tip. So most all of you have at least 100 people in your database, right? In your personal database. You've got to know about 100. I've got 8,500, something like that in my contact database. So all that means I've just been around a really long time. So let's take 100 people. Here's what you need to do. Get them into an organized database, get them into a system so you can remember all of this. Call them up on the phone and say, hey, this is Steve. Year end's coming around. I was just updating my database. How you been? Have a conversation. Say, it looks like I got the right phone number. Is this still the correct email for you? Tell me a little bit more about your kids. What's going on in your life? You're calling to serve, not to sell. Calling to serve, not to sell. And just call them. We've found that everybody we do this with, because Cameron and I both suggest the number one thing that you do when you start with this is upload your entire database. But don't just upload it. That's an activity. That's right. Call them, have a conversation, and we find that every person who does this with that simple type of conversation, they generate 1 to 2 transactions out of every 100 people they call. That will generate business for you right now today.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was a good tip.
No, that was perfect. And honestly, we see, something similar, that once you upload your database, we have a couple different templates, but like you said, that's just, fine. But what are you going to do with that database? There is just a mass communication that you can send out. And these are for people that you've been working with for 15 years, or those you haven't had a conversation with in 15 years. It is as simple as saying, hey, come check out my new website, or come check out my new system. And what you'll find is, if there's 200 people or 100 people that you've reached out to, maybe none of them are interested in communicating with you via real estate because they are not looking to buy or sell right now. But there's a good chance that out of 100, some of them are going to know somebody that will. So even just the initial system setup and introducing yourself or reintroducing yourself to your sphere, that alone can be a lead generation tool, and you can take it and run. So yeah, good point, Steve. Great tip.
Yeah. Call them and have the conversation. And a lot of people say, I really don't have time. I'm busy. How do I do this? Set up an hour a day. Just plan it. Yep. It's like planning the hour a day to go to the gym, or planning the hour a day to have lunch, or whatever the case may be that you plan. Just plan it. And everybody says, oh, what's the best time to call? When you make the calls. We just got through on last week on Thursday at 2:00 in the afternoon and dialed all of our clients out of our database. We literally sit with our clients and call and make appointments. So 41 people dialing from 2 to 3 in the afternoon. We make 55 appointments. 19% of the people picked up the phone. And we had a 40% conversion rate to meeting with people. So make the time, schedule the hour a day, do it until all your contacts, you've turned over your database. You'll see results. You'll get back and say, that worked. I actually got a deal or two out of that. I guarantee it.
Yep. Steve and I have a couple tips on that coming up, but that's a perfect segue into that. Okay, so going into just kind of the best practices, you've got a CRM, it's all set up, you're ready to go. Now, what do I do? The very first thing that I recommend is going in and using a tag or a flag feature, whatever you have in your current system, to be able to organize. I took a quick screenshot of just what it looks like on the Real Geek CRM. So here in the middle, you can see that I have tagged, well, myself, but I've tagged this prospect as, they like golf, they like dogs, they like craft beer and football. So what I know is, if I have an open house that is across the street from a dog park, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick selfie video or get a blast out to everybody in my database who's tagged as dog lover, dog, whatever I have, tagged, or, maybe there's some real estate right across the street from Autzen Stadium that I most likely cannot afford, but anybody who's a football fan, maybe they would be interested. So I can send that out. So just being able to get the communication to the individuals, again, staying relevant as fast as possible and as easy as possible. So any type of tag, flag, organizational system your CRM has, be sure that you're using it if you can. Leveraging text messaging, autoresponders, and AI. So text messaging, email is king. It's probably never going to be going away, not in my lifetime, but text messaging has absolutely made a resurgence to where, open rates for emails and spams and stuff like that compared to text message, there is no comparison whatsoever. Text message is, I don't have the actual stats, but it's like 98% open rate and 60-something% response rate. I mean, it is incredible. So if your system has text message capabilities, absolutely leverage those. Email, again, use it, it's there. But if you're looking to kind of drum up more business, leverage the text messaging. Autoresponders. How many of you, I don't know, sleep at night or do open houses or have other things that you do outside of business? So what happens when a lead signs up or submits an inquiry or something like that? Use an autoresponder if it's available. Somebody signs up at 2 a.m., that they're interested in real estate. Speed to lead, name of the game. They've probably submitted that same, inquiry on 3 or 4 other websites. So what if you were the one that had a quick text message 2 minutes after they signed up that said, hey, saw you signed up. Thanks for reaching out to me. If there is anything that I can do for you, please let me know. This is my contact information, whatever it is, you're going to be the first one to be there. And they're going to remember that. Leads do remember that. And then AI, we have an AI feature at Real Geeks. For us, it's relatively new. We didn't launch it until I want to say later last year. So I'm actually going to defer to Steve on this because I think CINC has had AI a little bit longer. But Steve, how would you help leverage AI?
Well, we've been doing it now for a couple of years, and it's really interesting. It's artificial intelligence, and it's a robot. So it's really funny that the conversations we watch people have with the AI is funny. Now we call ours Alex. So our little fun thing is to say, is Alex female or male? And the answer is yes. Yeah. So that's why we named our AI Alex. Yeah. But here's just the stats on it. And here's another tip. So like I said, I get to be kind of your tip guy today. Number one is we get a 24% engagement with your clients out of your database out of AI. So when they text or ask for something and you're not available, like Cameron said, AI responds and answers them. So it's really getting good. They can say, hey, I saw that house on 123 Elm. Does it have 3 or 4 bedrooms? And it understands what the person asks. And it looks at the listing and goes, has 4 bedrooms. Is there anything else you need to know about it? And then as the AI engages, it lets you know, hey, you've got somebody on the line that wants to talk to you. You've got to attend to this. And so there's notifications. But 24% engagement is huge without us having to do anything. But here's the tip. 19% is positive, 5% is negative. So sometimes people get a message, or we call them, or we talk to them, or we approach them, and they say, well, I won't say what they say sometimes, but they say things we hope they don't say to us, and like, leave us alone. And so it's really funny though. It's change your mindset and you'll change everything. Change your mindset and you'll change everything. Out of those negative responses, what the number one thing is like somebody says, hey, leave me alone. I hate robots, or this didn't make sense, or I'm busy now, or whatever the case may be. Our people pick up the phone and say, hey, Cameron, I understand that you got that message, but I was just checking in to make sure, you had everything you needed. And from even out of the negative responses, we're converting about 1/3 of those back into a positive situation. So just the way to look at it is, if you could have a database of people and you could get 20% of them to engage with you at some point in the year when they're thinking about real estate without you having to do anything, would that be good or bad? That's good, right? So AI is amazing.
Yeah, we don't have for us, the AI is one of the only features that's an add-on to the platform. Everything else is pretty much included. So not all of our users are using the AI, but those that have from the beginning of this year, we just looked at some statistics last year, and I think they've set that ours is called Robin, by the way. Ours has set, I want to say it was like 6,000 appointments, you know, from the beginning of year to now. And that's only on probably a handful of agents that are actually using the platform. So I think more than the script or the communication is just being able to reach out and communicate when you as an agent are not available or you're busy prospecting, have AI, you know, Alex or Robin be communicating on the back end. Definitely a time saver there. Market reports. So this is kind of I've learned that this is a very broad term. When we say market report, there's probably 100 different vendors out there that have market reports. They all look a little bit different, but ultimately it's going to be, you know, open properties, active properties, those that are pending, and those that have recently sold. That's kind of what you are looking for in that generic market report. That's what we refer to. And so if you don't have one, hopefully you don't have a third-party vendor that's attached to the platform, because we're trying to minimize that, but hopefully you do have access to some type of market report. And then so for those of you, you know, in the chat, if you do have access, who are you sending market reports to? What percentage of your database would you say is getting some type of market report? I'm always interested in seeing these answers, because for me, I think it's just a trick question, because it should be over 100%. Everybody in your database should be getting some type of market report, whether they're looking to buy or sell or whatever it is. Everybody should be getting one. But if they are looking to buy, maybe in a few different areas, maybe that one person is getting 4 different market reports for different areas they're looking in, or different product types, or whatever it may be. So it should be well over 100%. But yeah, definitely leverage the market reports when you can. As Steve alluded to this earlier, a lot of top producers, actually, maybe it was Laura. Either way, one of you said a really great comment earlier about how top producers, regardless of the system that they're using for a website or CRM, they are still manually going through and turning over their database. Just a manual phone call, a manual email, touch, whatever it is outside of your generic property update or drip campaign that you've got them on, just to keep the communication fresh. As Steve said, hey, how's things going? Haven't actually talked to you in a couple months. Is, you know, Johnny still playing soccer, or, you know, whatever, just to keep it fresh. And that is key to, you know, again, staying relevant, staying in front of your sphere. Experiment. So I know this happens a lot with our platform, and probably with CINC as well, because a lot of people that come over to our system are used to using something, maybe nothing at all, or something that's a little more standalone, like a Lion Desk or Follow Up Boss, which are good CRMs, but they typically don't have a whole lot of functionality outside of the CRM function. And so when I say experiment, we have how many different workflows in the library that agents can play around with and experiment with. Or if you're new to video messaging, you can do that straight from the platform as well, as opposed to going out and, you know, getting a third-party system like Bonbon to get that up and running. So if you haven't done video messaging, great opportunity to try. You know, we have a ton of agents that do their you know, Monday morning motivational 30-second whatever and send it out to their sphere, or, you know, a longer 2-minute, hey, I'm at an open house, come check it out. But either way, a lot of them have not had experience with video messaging before. They tried it now and they've had a ton of success. So make sure that you are experimenting with your database and experimenting with different types of content that you're sending out and how to reach out, which actually leads me right into keeping yourself up to date with your product. So I know that CINC and Real Geeks are constantly improving and adding features in the database. There is a huge change log of maybe a random agent in Tennessee said, hey, I like this, but it'd be cool if it did that. Great idea. We didn't think of it. Let's see if we can add it to the system. So if you are not keeping yourself up to date with whatever system you're using, there's a very good chance there's maybe features and benefits that are now on the platform that you weren't aware of. So I know at Real Geeks, we have a blog that we update constantly. And we also offer trainings. Every week, there's the same 10 trainings on different pieces of the platform. And even though they're the same trainings, they're often different because things are changing. And so definitely keeping yourself up to date with that. I know we did this last time, Steve. I mentioned we had a client who actually got a hold of me to try and cancel the platform because they wanted something, I think it was video messaging, because they didn't know that we launched video messaging like 4 months prior to that. And so I said, okay, well, we actually have the video messaging here. Would you still be interested to try? And now, they experimented with it and they love it and they continued on. So again, not knowing what your platform offers is definitely a negative there. And then don't delete leads. So we get this one all the time of, hey, I manually entered something wrong, or, I'm in California and I got, Mickey Mouse signed up at 123 Disney Way with a fake phone number. How do I get them out of the system? Don't delete leads. Maybe you wouldn't get in and set them up on property alerts because it's a fake, whatever, or pay attention to them. But we have had a success story of somebody signing up under a fake alias. But the point is they signed up, right? So even though it's a fake contact information, that agent logged on and saw, hey, Mickey Mouse is actually looking at ranch style homes in Anaheim, California, and they kept up to date with them, sent him information, and lo and behold, got the proper contact information, turned into a transaction. So if it's bad information, you can still see what they're doing. I wouldn't delete it. And Steve, I think you guys feel the same way.
Never. Our job's to build a database, right? Not get rid of people. So one of the things you got to look at in your life is that all the people you met, well, I've got those 8,000 people in there, is year after year after year. We get all the time people who have been in our database for 5, 6, 7 years. They pop back up. Hey, Steve, are you still in real estate? Yeah, absolutely. Glad you reached out. And they've been getting, contact information from us on a continual basis. Hey, I got your letter the other day. We just converted a lead that was 5.5 years old. They started looking 5.5 years ago. Now in between they bought, but not from us, and sold, which is painful, right? And now they're back. And so it's like never, ever. I mean, everybody can become business. Everybody.
Yep. Every conversation is a potential prospect, is a potential lead. You never know. Yep. Okay, so this kind of along the lines of what Laura was saying, there's a lot of potentially negative information and stuff out there, but we're going to focus on the positive. So this is just quickly going to go over some of the stuff that Steve and I have seen with agents who sign up and, again, overwhelmed, burnout, whatever it is. So we're trying to kind of help those that are either new to our platforms or something else. Just want to make sure that you're not basically trying to do it all at once, right? Don't go out and eat the entire elephant. You want to do it one bite at a time. So if you're in a system and you've got, 1,000 different tools to look at, don't look at 1,000 different tools by the end of the day. You are going to be cross-eyed and have no idea what to do. Start with kind of like we said earlier, step 1, then step 2, then step 3. Every platform that you're using should have a basic, okay, here's what you do first, then look at that, then look at this, as well as a solid support team to kind of help you when you're struggling with certain things. So just make sure that you're not trying to do it all at once and getting it done by the end of the day. It does take time for a lot of these. Not uploading, integrating, or utilizing their database. So a lot of people, again, oh, I don't want to put my professional contacts in, or, oh, they're my neighbors, I don't want to put them in my database. That is the mentality of someone who's going to go out there and try and sell something to everybody all the time. Ultimately, as Steve mentioned, you are trying to come from a place of help, and you are trying to provide information, be a resource, provide value. You're not trying to sell something. So I know that if I were to be a real estate agent tomorrow, my neighbors across the street, I wouldn't want to be selling them. I don't want to come across like that, but I guarantee you they'd be interested in getting a market report to see what's going on in our neighborhood or anything like that. And you know what? When they are ready to go, it's the other way around. They're going to contact me because I've been providing them information on the value of their home. So a lot of people do forget to upload and have those communications with their database, believe it or not. Focusing on the expense and not the investment. So Steve and I run into this all the time. There are hundreds of different website CRM providers out there, dozens that are specific to real estate. But as Steve mentioned, if you've got one of these and then you've got a video messaging platform and an email platform and then something else for your website and something else, typically what they have done is paired together a cheap or free this and a cheap or free that and a cheap or free that. And if you look at the price, the total monthly price, you're probably going to be in the ballpark of somebody who's doing it a la carte anyway. So that's definitely one thing to pay attention to. But if that is the main focus of, oh, this is what I'm spending per month on my platform, you as an agent need to do a little bit of mental gymnastics and focus on, okay, this is what I'm investing in my business every month. So instead of focusing on the expense of what's going out, it's focusing on the investment. A lot of the top producers that we've talked to, whether they have grown to a team of 5, 10, 100, 500, they will always go back and say that their very first hire was their CRM, was their database. That is the backbone of their business, and it continues to be so. So it's focusing on that expense is going to detract if you can focus on the investment. That's what's going to get you through to the better system and better building your business. Not responding or reacting to the engagement in your CRM, kind of along the lines of, you know, the fake lead with phony information. Sometimes you'll get engagement that, you know, okay, somebody at 555, 555, 5555. Obviously, that's not a real number. I don't need to worry about them. But again, still make sure that if they are clicking on properties, that is a human behind the fake, you know, so pay attention, make sure you can respond or react to stuff like that. Or even ones that, you know, okay, I'm a listing agent. I have no interest in buyer leads. That's not my thing. But even if somebody comes across the platform and they are looking at buying a home, you can get information from them. You can use that buyer to leverage a listing appointment with somebody. So, you know, make sure you can have that connection, or there's a referral fee. So make sure that you are engaging and, you know, reacting to any of the engagement in your CRM. The past due tasks and activities. This is one that I am 1,000% guilty of. I like to have a list. I'm a list maker. This is what I do. This is how I get through my day. But if I've got 10 things to do and I only do 8 of them, tomorrow I've got 12 and I only do 8 of them, the next day I've got 14. And by the time I get to Friday, I've got 37 things I need to do. There's no way I can get them done in time. And I start ignoring that list and things to do. So make sure that you are not overwhelming yourself. Look at that list, prioritize, you know, some of the most important, or in real estate, those that are going to bring revenue before others, because some of them are going to be, this is what I have to do. And others are, I could be doing this to help. So focus on the ones that are going to bring in that revenue, you know, before others, but just make sure you're not overwhelming yourself, because I've seen, you know, thousands of past due activities in some of these CRMs. You might as well not use it at all. And then too many uncontacted leads and ignoring leads. This, you know, we kind of hit on this. Uploading your database, that's what you need to do. I think the first step is to send out a big blast. And then, as Steve said, call everybody, email everybody, follow up with everybody. But if you upload 1,000 and on call number 427, you get a transaction, you kind of forget about the other 600 or 550 that are in there. You know, oh, I'm going to go this way, which is good. You should go towards a transaction always. But don't forget that there's, you know, 550 uncontacted in your database. So make sure you don't do that. Any other big ones that I missed, Steve?
You didn't miss anything there. I'm watching time, and I want to make sure you get through everything. And we got a couple of things just really quickly here. We talk about expense and investment. Track your real ROI. Don't lie to yourself. I mean, know your real numbers. We have gone through now with 2,000 clients. So we've been doing this for 11 years, worked with 10,000 people face to face. We're through 2,000 of them, and we're actually doing a survey of all of the people that they have in their database versus all the transactions they've actually created. When we take the money they've spent on the system to do that, we're running on average across the board at 10 times ROI. So that's if somebody invests 1,000, they're getting 10,000 back. And that's not a made up number. Most people don't know that. We know it. We've actually done it. So we're looking at it. So when you do it, do your math and make sure you have your numbers down right and know your ROI, because that also leads to the last thing we're going to talk about again, a valuable database. And how valuable is it? And how do you know what it's worth? And we're going to close with that, but go ahead, Cameron.
Yeah, so I'm going to quickly go through these next ones. And I saw somebody ask about getting the slides out. I can certainly send out the slides afterward. So we'll just kind of breeze through the last daily habits. So creating that daily routine and generate daily or prospect daily. It doesn't matter when you call. The best time to call is making those phone calls when you're doing it, right? One thing I will add to that is in that daily routine, make sure you do have a block of time every day set aside to prospecting, whether it's cold calling, phone calls, whatever it is, make sure you're doing that. But I also suggest doing it at different times. So if you're calling every Monday from 10 to 2, every Tuesday from 10 to 2, mix it up a little bit, call from 2 to 3, call from noon to whatever, maybe even do some time on, evenings or whatever it is. So make sure you can, mix that up. Segmenting your database. Again, this is going to go back to those flags and tags that I was using earlier or that I mentioned earlier. This is just another way to do it. Instead of specific, like, dog park or craft beer, it is easy to go in and get overwhelmed by doing a ton of that because you can have 1,000 different tags for one individual lead. But making sure that as leads come in, you have them specific to, okay, that's a buyer, that's a seller, that's a, first time owner. So even if it's just your simple basic segmenting, make sure you do that because you'll know, where they are when they come up and it's time to contact them. Utilizing the saved searches. So this is one where everybody, just like a market report, should be on some type of saved search. They should be interested in some type of area, whether they're interested in buying or they're just kind of curious to see what's out there. So make sure you can utilize those. And as they get those, you can see they're clicking on properties, they're going elsewhere, clicking on other properties, edit the saved search, create a different saved search. But utilizing those saved searches is, on the CINC and the Real Geeks platform, at least, it's actually going to feed into telling you what that lead is actually interested in. So make sure you utilize those. And then aggressively follow up. This is one that it's going to come down to personality, but ultimately, if you have somebody who says, I'm interested, and then you can never get them on the phone, you might need to change up how you're reaching out, but don't just let it go. Don't after a week say, okay, you know what, maybe they weren't that serious. There's a lot of times where people get busy, people forget, maybe they weren't as urgent as they said they were, but make sure that you are staying on top of those people who at least at one point, raised their hand. So what I will say to that is when you are dealing with the leads that are coming in, the amount of aggression is going to look different. That word is kind of harsh and I should have probably used something different, but it's going to come down to you as the agent, right? Whatever you feel is best, or, because if you're working with only 150 contacts, it's your existing sphere, you've already done business with them, you probably don't need to be as aggressive. But if you're those agents that are buying 5,000 leads from Zillow, you're going to have to be aggressive on those. So definitely follow up. And then last, just monitor the activity. So this is just a quick snapshot of the Real Geek CRM. As leads are clicking on properties, they're favoriting properties. This is where you need to make sure you're on top of that engagement, responding to them and not letting anything fall through the cracks, because these are people who have raised their hand and said, hey, I'm looking at properties. You should probably call me, or you should probably send me a note. So make sure you do that. Okay, Steve, that's all I had. I'm kicking it back to you.
Awesome. That was so fantastic. I really appreciate it. So I hope somebody got some tips and tricks out of that. I have one more really piece of good news, and that is I've been in this business now for 40 years. I've done nothing but real estate. I don't know anything else. I've been an agent, been an owner, been involved in real estate in some way, shape, or form. In fact, if your car broke down today and we go out in the parking lot and you said, my car's broken, I hope I can still say the same. We're both screwed. I have no idea how to fix it. Zero. I don't know anything about, but if you ask me about real estate, I've just lived it. And so now that doesn't mean anything, because it takes no talent to grow old, but you gain a lot of resources, right? And so I have one piece of great encouragement for everybody here that's on the call today. During a shift, during a change, during adjustment, that's when the people that work hard and adapt and move, they make the most. We have the biggest gain. They have the biggest increase in business. I'll give you an example. In the shift a few years ago in Arizona, when 80% of the properties were owned by the bank. Think about that shift a few years ago. 80% of all the properties were bank owned. Real estate was fairly non-existent. There's some companies there that shifted and figured out how to get bank business, and they made a fortune. And so guess what? When the market moves, it's our opportunity. So here's the opportunity tips we've got for you in 2023. Like we said, number one, have a database and a system and a process for managing your business, because we'll ask you this question. If you were to sell your business today, what would you sell and how much would you get? Think about that for just a minute and own your database. It should be yours. You shouldn't be dependent on anybody else for it, because whatever changes in your life, that should be yours, that you should own it. You shouldn't be waiting for somebody else to provide it. So, and then don't do multiple databases. We talked about that enough, but have a system that you can go to either on your phone, especially on your phone, because we live off this thing now. Open your computer and work on it. And it takes you through your day, and every day it drives you to revenue. So I don't like the term CRM. We actually call it a lead conversion system. When Cameron and I actually work with people, because whatever you have as far as your database, it should always drive every contact that you have in there towards leading with revenue. How does it drive revenue for you? And a way to manage and monitor that. So the next piece of that is number 2, get an automated assistant. Like Cameron said, whatever you're looking at, whatever you're checking through, make sure they have some kind of automated system in there, because birthdays, anniversaries, you can ask yourself this question on the call. How many sales did you have last year? So somebody could type 20, somebody could type 40, somebody could type 100, whatever the case may be. But how many sales have you had in the last 12 months? Here's some great news. If you had 40, you have 80 new clients, right? If you're doing residential real estate, because there's usually a buyer and a seller. So ask yourself this question: what do I send those 80 people every 27 days consistently without ever missing, so I can stay in touch? And there's a reason I said 27 days, because marketing tells us every 27 days people forget us. And so they don't know who we are. They just get busy, right? So there's a method to the madness. But if you sent those 80 people something and called behind it, that's a key. Call behind it and talk to them. You're going to generate business out of that. And guess what? We don't work our own database. And so we need to work that continually. So get a database system, just one, use it every day. Make sure it has an automated assistant, and even better if it has a lead generation portion to the business. Because everybody, just to wrap up about lead generation for a minute, one of the things that we do better than anybody in the industry, and just ask yourself this question: have you ever moved? Have you ever gone into a market where you didn't know anybody and you didn't have friends or family or anything? You had to like start over. And a lot of you probably are going, yeah, I have. And we know people who have. How would you move to like Nashville, Tennessee today and not know a soul and generate business in real estate? Leads. You've got to have some leads. So some other good news: this internet thing that got started a few years ago, I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's caught on. I think NAR tells us in 2020, which was a good year because everybody was home anyway. So let's take 2019. 96% of the people who bought a home looked online. So you got to have a net in the water. Anybody's net. Get a net in the water. But the key is, does that net really help you capture those people, have a conversation with them, and turn it into transactions so everybody benefits? So lead generation's here to stay. The market shift is real, but when you look at the numbers, it's not going to be anything like it was back in 2012. It's different. And the difference is what Laura pointed out in her opening. And so I have one last piece of advice, and that is this. Contact your local Western title agency person who you're dealing with every single day, because we're just one of the resources, but they have a plethora of resources available to you. So if you say, hey, in my business, I need help with recruiting. Hey, in my business, I need help with what do I send those people? I need what do I text? How do I get data on the markets that are in my area and what the turnover rate is and all of those kinds of things? They've got just a plethora of resources, and I hopefully, one of the resources they brought to you today was helpful. But set up a personal appointment with them. They can go through the details. We didn't get down here to sell you anything. Somebody did ask, is Real Geeks and CINC the same thing? And it's no, we're two different companies. We actually are same owner, but we work together and we serve kind of two different markets. and your Western Title group will be glad to explain that to you, answer any questions, and do it in a non-sales situation. So please schedule an appointment. Amy, thanks for having us. I hope it was helpful. Anything you guys want to wrap up with?
I always like to wrap up, and I shouldn't speak while Amy gets unmuted, that if you did appreciate what you heard today and you learned something, I tell you what, nothing says thank you like giving Western Title your next listing, your next escrow. Holler at Amy, Cheyenne. I know I'm missing a couple other on the call, and forgive me, but that is how you pay it forward, folks. And then after that, they'll show you how the CRM can help benefit that closing. Amy, all yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you to each of you guys, Steve, Cameron, and Laura. Lots of good information, and our sales team, myself, Cheyenne, and Rick are here to assist you and get you further information. So I appreciate all of your guys' time, and we will be following up with each of you guys that are on this call today to see if you would like further information. And like I said, we have it recorded, and we'll be getting the PowerPoint. So thank you all. It looks like
Good
you
job,
get
Amy.
lots
Thanks,
of great
guys.
feedback in the comments. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Thanks, Amy. Good show. Appreciate it.
Have a good
Everyone.
Wednesday.
You guys too.